glass up in the ceiling. So this is essentially kind of a greenhouse that's on the house. It's passive solar design. There's no moving parts once you have all this built. It is an awesome example of on-site energy. This is helping to heat my place by energy that's there, whether I use it or not. And when I think about what I've learned about the performance of solar energy at my property, I just have to think that virtually the entire profession of architecture deserves to be chastised deeply for missing the boat like this for our entire lifetimes. I mean, there is a little solar design here and there, but wow, if solar works this well where I live in a climate that's cloudy, particularly in the wintertime, this just should be common solar design. So this is a retrofit. The house didn't have it originally, but it's a retrofit. And this is also a part of home economics. This is just one little project I wanted to show. Lots of places have landscaping of one sort or another. This hedge right here, a very effective hedge. Of course, I have a neighbor on the other side of that hedge. My neighbor happens to kind of think this way too. So we collaborated on taking the hedge out, and of course we put a fence up, so we did that. I planted a food forest here. If you're not acquainted with that term, food forest, that is a sort of intentional artificial landscape that simulates a natural system. You have some plants that are tall, you have some that are shorter, some are lower, and maybe some ground cover. In a food forest, all these plants tend to be food producing, they might be culinary, they might be medicinal. But where I live, there's lots of food forest activity. One of my neighbors actually designs food forests. If you did a search, YouTube on food forest, you'd find all kinds of stuff. So when I go to different places or even looking around my own neighborhood, I see opportunity like this everywhere. And I challenge you, when you're around your town, around your neighborhood, with some of the ideas I'll show you, where could you retrofit edible landscaping? Because that's an enormously important part. Food, local food, that's an enormously important part of a solidarity economy, is becoming less dependent on this mainstream type of food system. So we took the hedge out, planted food forests. I grow a lot of food where there used to be an ornamental hedge, and it looks nice too, okay? So this is a little bit related to the food forest. I have a number of places around my property where there's already an existing footprint. If I could just borrow this for a second. Just imagine that's something down on ground level. You know, that might even be a car or it might be a building. Imagine constructing something over it where something like grapes, kiwi fruit, other types of plants that start out down here and can grow up. Think about where you can locate edible landscaping above an existing footprint. For example, this right here, this is my 3,000 gallon water tank here. So it's on the ground, but you go up above the tank and there's plenty of sunlight up there. These are peach trees up here and these are grapes here. I built a trellis over the tank that actually helps to shade the tank because, of course, plastic doesn't like sunlight. So this is practical, it produces food. Here's another place. This is a rooftop over my outdoor work area. I built a trellis over that. This is just a couple of years ago. It hasn't really totally been grown over by the grapes, but this is going to become another site for food production. Think about all the places where you live where this type of design might work. You can even put this over a driveway. You could have a car underneath this kind of a food producing trellis. And these are some other examples too, okay? So this is my backyard, and this is another structure that I built in my backyard. This is actually my living space right here. I rent 3 rooms in my house, so of course that's another important part of my home economics. But this is mostly vegetable garden. The pictures I just showed, that's right here. The 3,000 gallon tank is right back here, and a greenhouse here, of course, that's for extending the growing season. Stays a little warmer, stays a little bit drier. This is the top of the sunroom right here. So, and even this back here is a little bit of more natural, some native plants there, and there's a water feature as well. So I see lots of hummingbirds and lots of bees come over, lots of birds. So it's nice to attract wildlife and provide a place for wildlife. And I will also mention that an important part of a solidarity economy is aesthetics. There should be a component of that that actually looks nice, you know, that helps elevate the spirit. That's just about as important as anything, is to live in a place that affirms, you know, somebody else might have come up with something different, but this works for me. And I've learned that how a place looks and how it affects you in sort of even kind of a spiritual kind of a way. There is an element of spirituality in a solidarity economy. It should uplift the spirit. I think that's a critical part of this. Other skills, part of a home economics, of course, is food. How do you harvest and store food? This is important type of knowledge to have. You know, our grandparents probably knew a lot more about that than we do. But these are the kinds of skills that people can share, you know, at the local community center or through maybe your local neighborhood association, all kinds of places to share this kind of more local, more human scale kind of food production, okay? Seed saving is another part of that. If you don't know, if you go to the store and buy hybrid seeds, they may make a great garden that year, but if you let the hybrid zucchini grow to maturity, save the seeds and plant those seeds, the next year it turns into something else. It's not zucchini anymore. So the idea of common words, heirloom seeds, open pollinated, these are terms that apply to types of seeds that you can plant, you can harvest and replant, and you get the same thing year after year. Think about having neighborhood or community networks where people are sharing their seeds, you know. This is a huge part of building alternatives to the mainstream food system.
Folks who are in the Worcester area, the Regional Environmental Council runs a program that's each every spring. So.
Yeah, great. Check with that, find out. I mean, this isn't like a rocket scientist talking about this stuff. What makes so much of a solidarity economy and so much of what these interests are, what makes them look so smart, is because what normally goes on is really kind of so stupid. This looks brilliant, but it's just completely common sense. The people pulling the switches right now, they're not interested in common sense. They're like interested in money and power, and we know that. So this couldn't be more political. It's pegged out on political right here, but it's also pegged out on fun as well. So something I didn't really think about so much when I started doing this is that this could become, my place could become a community educational resource. It's a community educational resource. I've done lots of tours. A lot of people come over. There's been a fair amount of media attention, school kids, eco tours, permaculture classes. We have bike tours in the neighborhood. So we like to visit interesting places and find out what people are doing. Not just my house, but I've hosted a lot of that. So community asset every positive kind of permaculture, solidarity, economy type of story as a platform for more cool stuff to happen. Every place becomes a platform to expand these ideas. Okay. For example, here is Hannah. She did this to her place. She said, I never would have thought about buying a suburban house. This view here this is the same place like 7 years later. So when people see this, whether it's a whole property or it's something more limited like some edible landscaping, there's lots of opportunity to do this. And when people see how smart it is and how productive it is and positive it is, more people, as the economy, the mainstream economy continues its downward slope, there's going to be a lot more people interested in this kind of thing. And the more models and examples we have, the better off we're going to be, because as the thing goes down, historically, those conditions bring out the best in some people, and it brings out the worst in some people. So the more positive stuff we have, the better off we're all going to be. I mean, this is self-interest. This is self-interest as much as anything, but this is these kind of models, whether it's suburban or it's urban, wherever, these need to be visible, okay? Okay, let's continue on, see what's next. Okay, so this is my neighborhood right here. And each one of these little squares, little rectangles, is a part of our network. So I'm located up here in this yellow one right here. Not all of these rectangles are doing everything I'm doing. Some of them are doing other things that I'm not doing. But this is the nearby neighborhood. This is my next door neighbor. And here's Dharmaliya, a real ally, Al's place. This is all people who identify with what we're doing. We're part of a network. And there is recognition in the neighborhood that we've got something kind of cool going on. And it does take effort to keep things moving. And I wouldn't for a moment say this is the full-blown example of turning a neighborhood into a permaculture Shangri-La. This is the way early going right here. So we're learning as we go too, because there aren't very many models for doing this. Okay. So just a quick tour of some of the other properties nearby. This is next door. This used to be a driveway right here. Bill took out part of his driveway. He's a beekeeper also, so I don't need bees because Bill's bees come over to my place. This is down the street at John and Debbie's. You see some photovoltaic here, lots of edible landscaping. Actually, John and Debbie are both Methodist ministers, and they are kind of leading the faith community in Eugene into trying to get them a little bit more motivated. I'll say a few more things about faith communities in a minute, but they're very much, particularly John, food activism in the faith community. This is Jason and Cavalry's place. They've got big food forests. They have about an acre. And once again, I know this isn't what everybody here has, but this is what we're working with. I don't have an acre either, but there's a lot of food forest here. This is Heiko. He does a lot of the, not only in the neighborhood, but in Eugene, food forest design. His front yard, this was a grassy front yard right here. If you can see that, it doesn't look like a grassy front yard anymore. It is a major amount of transforming this property here. So this is just a little tour. We like to show and tell. Cool things go on. You want to find out what people are doing. It's fun to see the progress. I've seen this go from the beginning because it's just around the corner from where I live. Okay. So this is Dharmaliya, which is a kind of become a little bit of a learning center. They ran afoul of the city for land use and code violations because their vision at City Hall, when you talk about sort of rules and regulations, they're not equipped to deal with a place like this because this isn't anything of the mainstream right here. They were going to make them do all these different kinds of design changes like it was a normal business. And fortunately, they appealed that and the city backed off. The city doesn't want to mess with this stuff. They know there's a lot of this going on in Eugene. And now, after a few interactions with this just unbelievably cool, green, positive, uplifting sorts of actions in the community, the city is aware of this, and if somebody complains, they'll kind of tiptoe out there and say, okay, would you do this, would you do that? After a few fairly public, high-profile sort of crackdowns, the city knows better now. They don't tell me I need to put a driveway in. They're just fine, just leave it, just, don't involve us, we don't even want to know. So we're kind of in the process of re-educating the city, but the city also has a little bit of a green lean anyway. I'll say a few things more about the city. This right here is another nearby neighbor. This is a half-acre garden back here. The term mentioned out here earlier, CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. Andrew has a 12-family CSA. During the growing season, has a box, a really nice share every week for 12 families, and that's coming out of basically a large backyard. Here's another place that was all overgrown with blackberries. It's a 1-acre property. Again, a 3-minute bike ride. All big garden, the beginnings of a small eco-village. And another great example of a property that was just neglected. There were some fruit trees covered by blackberries. It took a lot of work to kind of restore this property. So this is a really good example of a property that kind of wasn't really living up to its potential, but through a lot of work, it is now. So the idea of restoring and upgrading and improving what's already here. I took a really nice bike tour in Boston last week. Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, there's a lot of neat stuff in those neighborhoods. And that's a more urban example of doing this kind of stuff. I saw some great gardens because the people I stayed with are tuned into all of this too. So I'm sure there's some things like that in Worcester as well, and a lot of places all over, really. I know there's nice gardens in Houston, Texas. So, but this all needs to be way more. But it's just so great to see. This used to be a junky yard or a lot or something like that, and now, it's a place where kids can come and learn about gardening. That's a real important part of a solidarity economy. Yeah, go ahead. So this is a new front yard garden here just this last summer. This is Mark's place. Once again, a larger property. There used to be a big driveway, a big U-shaped driveway right here. And one of the first things Mark did is he took out the driveway because cars take up a lot of space. So let's reclaim some of that space. Sandra, she's a real pal. She has done a lot of really great work in her backyard. So these are all kind of nearby to where I live. These are all on a bike tour this last summer. Okay.
Jan, you keep saying you're taking your driveways out. I assume you're reformatting your garages. What do you do with your car?
I have a vehicle. I park it along the street, and I take it around the block, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, just so it doesn't seize up. And I don't use it very much. But yeah, you're supposed to have off-street parking, but yeah, I park it along the street. So this right here is the social component of this. As we know, it's great to have the production part, but wow, to more integrate the production with the social. That's really, I think, a core ideal of a solidarity economy, is where people are more participating and taking care of their needs. And that can be done in a social way. You can have fun taking care of human needs. This is our kind of garden party, a purposeful garden party. This is a workshop about winter gardening. There's like 50 or 60 people there. A permaculture course at Dharmaliya. This is one of our bike tours where we actually meet someplace and we bike around the neighborhood. We had 4 bike tours in River Road in my neighborhood this past summer just because there are so many places to see. And so that's another aspect of a social / educational activity to get people out and see some of this stuff and learn how to do it so they can apply some of it where they live.